It's autumn and it's time for decorating. This episode we are out on the veranda and we are going to be doing all sorts of stuff. We're not going to be spending lots of money, but we're going to be upcycling, revamping, repurposing, making and creating. So keep on watching. The last time we were out here decorating was for spring, summer, but the season is a-changing, so we need to change the decor. After taking everything off and giving it all a really good clean, boring bits, you don't need to see all of that, I've left the key pieces on. So I'm definitely going to use the sofa again. I'm using potato chitting trays as side tables. Now, potato chitting trays, they're containers that are used to store and encourage the sprouting of potato seeds before planting, and these are vintage ones. I bought a job lot of these some years ago and I use them continuously. They are really useful items. So if you ever see any, grab them quick. Now I'm leaving on the big old oak armchairs. These I distressed back even further last year and I'm loving the way they're silvering up. So they are definitely always staying on here. The table I revamped some time ago and I finished it in Osmo white oil stain and then a top oil. That has worn really well, as have the chairs that I distressed some time ago. Now, I reupholstered those in the last video that I did on the veranda. I'll link all this below as well for you. And they've worn so well. There's no marks on them, and I think actually part of it is down to the fact that I use the fabric spray, the Scotch Guard, and it really does help. It's a super easy product to use and it makes such a difference. The tones in the floral fabric are going to work for what we're about to do, as is the colour on this bookcase. Now I painted this in Capability Green. It's an Annie Sloan chalk paint. I finished it off in the clear matte and it's been on here all summer long and it's perfect. It looks exactly as it did before. We are going to be doing some makeovers and they're sprinkled all the way through the video, so don't be scooting off before the end. The palms are going to stay as well, but let's get down to the rug. Now this rug I bought for my winter decorating. It has worn, again, incredibly well. This was an Amazon find and they're quite often half price. So again, I'll drop the links below for you. Now we're going to do a bit of rug layering. This was a rug that I bought for the autumnal decorating last year. And I thought, oh, I'll do it again. It's really heavy, actually. It's 100% wool. It's faded down beautifully while it's been outside, and I love that kind of shabby, vintage, worn look. But it's a little bit small, whereas the other rug, the neutral rug underneath, is a really good size. So I thought, right, well, why not layer? Is layering rugs something that you do? I think it gives a cozy, relaxed feel. It's also a great way of maybe using those smaller rugs that you've had for years, maybe ones you've inherited, have got sentimental reasons attached to them, but they're too small. So if you put something neutral underneath, layer on top, and then it works. We're going to put the coffee table back on, but the colour is not quite right for autumn. I did this in the spring. It's worked beautifully through the summer, but you can see it's slightly marked with the sun coming in on it. So no problem, easy peasy. We'll just sand it all off and recolour it. If you're new here, meet Bertie, the furry supervisor, and I am Tracy. So after sanding, I'm just going to spritz it with water and give it a good wipe over. I want the surface damp because I'm going to do a colour wash and I'm going to go with Annie Sloan Cocoa. This tone will work beautifully with the rug and with the other things I've got planned. Now I'm doing it as a wash, super cheap to do, little bit of paint, little bit of water. I like to use a big brush, big block brush. And the other things I need are a rag and then a bottle of water. I brush the water paint mix over, working it into the wood. You want that wood to absorb it, to suck it in, so you don't see any brush marks. Any surplus, I'll just pull back with a rag. And if I find that the paint is too thick, then I'll just use a bottle of water, give it a good spritz and dilute it down. Again, just working it all in. It dries really quickly. It dries even faster if you put a hairdryer or a heat gun on it. I'm then going to seal it with matte lacquer because this is going outside. But unfortunately, our weather is all over the place at the moment, so I'm going to do that indoors. I'm bringing the lacquer up to room temperature by putting it in the sunshine, and I have it upside down to help all those ingredients mix together before I give it a really good stir. Now let's get this outside and see if that colour really does work with the rug. Just need to check in with the furry supervisor to make sure everything is meeting his exacting standards. Yes, I think we've got his approval there, so we'll crack on with the side tables. Now, onto these, I want to put 2 of the faux palms. Not technically autumnal plants, but this is where they live, so we'll do something to make them fit in with the scheme. I'm going to put them into these containers. They started life, they were a Home Sense find, the green colour, and I changed them by using Rub and Buff, 3 different colours, and just worked it in, worked it all around. And Rub and Buff, of course, you can use outside. Now, to weight these down, I'm using the empty tubs from the Christmas Sweeties, and I've filled them with gravel off the drive, the pea beach, and that acts not only as something to raise the plant up, but to add the weight to give stability. And to finish off around the top, I'm going to use big pine cones. These are not just for decoration, obviously they are very seasonal appropriate, but they're also there for stability because I've really packed them in. Now I'm going to do exactly the same on the other side, and then we'll see how they look. I'm really pleased with those. Those pots were done last year, so that Rub and Buff really does work. Now let's get this last one on. I've popped up 3 of the chitting trays here. I don't normally have them at this end, but I want elevation because I don't want all the greenery covering this shelf here, as I want to do something with that later. As a planter, I'm going to use this vintage copper bin that I picked up from auction. More of the Christmas Sweetie boxes coming out for elevation, and in we go with the plant. Now this time for stability, I'm going to use old rolled up towels. You could keep your packing material, I always do that, but these towels were lying around, so I thought they would be ideal. They bend and form into whatever shape you need. Now on top of that, obviously, because we don't want to see rolled up towels out on the veranda, do we? So we're going to add some hessian and some more pine cones. This bin came with a lid. Now I've just covered this in tomato sauce and it started to lighten it. So if you've got any copper cleaning techniques, any secret recipes, please do share in the comments below. Now we're going to come back to that shelf a little while later in the video, but in the meantime, let's get back down the other end and do fabrics. Now I tend to move around space when I'm decorating because I treat it like painting a picture. You put all your big, broad brush strokes in first. I want all my key bits of furniture. I want then to bring out the fabrics because the fabrics make a big statement, and then I can see what I need to accessorize with. I'm using the back cushions that came with the sofa as chair seat pads because they're super comfy, and also they looked a bit old-fashioned on the sofa. So now we need to make cushions. I found these curtains in a charity shop a little while ago. Regular viewers who have seen my shop and haul videos will know these. Just £15, super quality. And the best thing about them is that the reverse material is as lovely as the front. Doesn't that just scream autumn to you? So I think what I can do is make some in the front and some with the reverse. I picked up some coordinating thread and then I decided actually I'm going to start chopping them up. So I took off the header, I cut down and removed all the lining material, which is going to be great for other projects. unpicked the hem and put everything through the washing machine. Now, I am not a natural born sewer. I am very much this year experimenting with sewing, and I found a new super simple way to make cushion covers. I measured the width of the insert, which was 20 inches, doubled that to make 40, and then add 5 inches. So I know the width of the material that I need to cut, and yes, I am doing it on the floor because that's the only way I can cut straight lines, is 45 inches. And I know the length of the material that I cut needs to be the insert size, which is 20 inches. So really simple maths. Just double the width of your insert and add 5. And for the length, it is just the length of the insert. Simples. The sewing is simple too. So I'm just going to take the long sides and zigzag all the way down. This machine actually belongs to my daughter. I bought it as a present for her some years ago. And she's a mega busy woman, never has any time to sew. So I thought, ooh, I could maybe borrow it back, darling, on a long-term loan. And it's brilliant. So I will link it below. It's super simple. Now, the short sides are really straightforward. Just fold over an inch and then press a crease in using a hot iron. You could use finger protectors as well, you know, if you've got lots of steam going. And then just fold the edge into that press seam so you've got 1/2 inch hem. And again, just press along, rolling it in, really simple. And then I'm just going to pin it in position. When I've done this side, I'll do the same on the other side and then take it back to the machine. So if you've not made cushions before, or you were like me and you were using glue tape and trying to come up with all these weird and wonderful ways to avoid sewing, honestly, if you can get hold of a machine, it's not that difficult. After sewing all 4 edges, I put it onto the ironing board with the right side up. So the side that I want actually is my finished cushion. I folded that in half to find exactly where the middle point was, and I marked those with some pins. Then you open it back out again when you've marked off both ends, and then you're going to fold over beyond the pin. So if the pin is in the center, you bring your fold over. Now this is where some maths come in. So you take 1/2 of the pillow inset size minus 1/2 an inch. So my inset is 20 inches. Divide that by 2, that's 10. Take away 1/2 an inch, and I want 9.5 inches from the fold to the pin, not to the edge of that seam, but from the fold to the pin. And then do the same on the other side, pin everything in position, take it back to the machine and run it through with a 1/2 inch seam allowance. To turn it the right way round, I've found that the easiest way is using a chopstick to really get those lovely sharp corners. And bish bash bosh, there we go. We've got a cushion cover. How fabulous is that? I am so pleased with these. And to put the insert in, chop it in half and then feed in corner at a time, and you'll get it all really nicely packed in there. £15. Honestly, those curtains were such a dealio. So pleased with this. I'm going to have to make a lot more. Last year I bought some cushion covers from HomeSense, and they looked like this before they spent pretty much a year out on the veranda. I used them in my autumnal decoration last year. I also used them again for spring summer. So with being out in the sun and going through the washing machine, they have faded, but they faded to such a beautiful colour. They now coordinate with the curtains. Now I'm going to take an old pillow, and Instead of pulling it apart and emptying it into the cushion cover, I shove the whole thing in, but of course it doesn't really get into the corners. So a little snip of the pillow covering, and then I can pull out the wadding and tuck that wadding into the corners. Thus, when I come to empty it all, it's really simple. I don't have to be pulling out loads and loads of wadding because it's all still contained in there. Now, let's get these out and get them styled. Time to check in with the furry supervisor. I think we're getting the paw of approval. Time for some coffee table styling. And again, you don't have to spend lots of money. I'm going to use a charity shop platter that I found, an old sisal placemat, a jug that came in a job lot from auction, and some foraged items. I've got acorns, pine cones, and I'm going to add on some chestnuts. These are all things that I just picked up on walks in the countryside with Bertie. So get out into your local environment, into your local park, see what you can find. These faux stems came from HomeSense. They were just £1.29 each. They were in my last shop and haul video, and they bring a lovely pop of colour to the table. The only thing left to put onto the table is a few wooden coasters. Now I want to pop something behind the chair. It's a funny little space here, but it just needs a pop of something. So we're going to head down to my storage sheds. In this one in particular, I store lots of things. Now, we're very fortunate here that we've got some lovely land, and I can really shop Mother Nature to my heart's content. At this time of year, I like to be picking and drying. I really start about August time when things start to go over and the seed heads start to come out. And of course, Bertie likes to help me, and he also likes to contribute. He will quite often bring things back for me. We've had antlers brought back, and obviously there's a regular supply of sticks. Now let's go back up to this storage shed and I'll show you what I've been storing. It is actually seriously full at the moment. I can barely move in here. But I think there are a couple of things I've got my eye on there. So let's get that out. This table here was in one of my job lots from auction. I mean, you can see it's seen better days, for goodness sake. It's been in there waiting for a revamp, but I think actually I'm just going to give it a really good wash, and until I get time to revamp it, I'm going to utilise it. I've brought up some of the dried hydrangea heads and I'm going to spray those with hairspray, and then group them together, snap off the ends and combine them all with an elastic band. That keeps that form, that shape there, which means I can pop them into a basket. time to decorate the table and time to get creative. Now, regular viewers will recognise these candelabras. I revamped them in the last video that I did on the veranda. I painted in the capability green, covered in white wax, and they lived happily out there. Now I want to do something with them. So I'm going to use two different waxes to transform them from spring-summer decorating into autumnal decorating. I coat everything in clear wax first and then go over with the dark wax. I do it that way because the clear wax really helps me control the dark wax. I find that it just makes it much easier to work with, and you can see instantly the difference a little bit of wax can make. Now, I often get asked, how do I clean my wax brushes? I use warm water and washing up liquid. And to keep my candles straight and in position, I use museum wax. A little goes a long way. I've had this tub for a year now. Just a ball of it on the end of a candle, pop it into the holder, and it will hold it solid. And now for a centerpiece. We need something in the middle, and I want to make a big statement. I had an ash tree that had to come down because it was diseased. And so we kept lots of the rounds. Now this one I sanded and I sealed, I lacquered up. I even did one for my daughter's wedding as a cheese board. Now I'm going to attach a few things. And look, here's a pumpkin. You don't often see me wielding pumpkins in my fall decorating, but one, as a token gesture, is going to come out now. I'm using the staple gun to attach the stems of the hydrangeas, and what I've found is don't press too hard with the gun, particularly when you're using dried flowers, because it'll snap the stems. Also, when all of this is done and I take it apart, the pinholes that are left are just going to look like woodworm. So I think we're cool using the staple gun. However, this pumpkin keeps catching my eye and it is too faded. So I'm going to use some wax just to give it a bit of zhuzh. If anything stands still long enough, it gets waxed. Oh, I've just got to say, I absolutely love how that centerpiece has turned out. Oh, love it. Now let's get on with some more decorating. Let's head back to that shelf. On there, I'm going to pop on my mother-in-law's window. I'm going to use some canes. I know regulars will know that I've got a cane addiction. And of course, old books. Just because pots are damaged doesn't mean to say you can't still style with them. So with this one, I'm just going to put the crack at the back and then I'm going to carry on. Nobody needs to know, do they? I've bought some little steps. So many viewers commented on me perching on things. I thought, for my safety, I better actually get some steps. Now, do you remember these? If you saw my last shop and haul video, I could only get 2. I would have bought more if I could have. So now I'm going to try and style with just 2 blooms. Not an odd number. Oh, shock horror. Ah, I walk to the beat of my own drum. Ah, rules, who needs them? Do what makes you smile. Now in this spot, I normally use 3 or 4 of these chitting trays and use it almost like a console table. But this time I want to do something a little different. Charity shop find here this laundry bin, beautiful old laundry bin. It was originally marked up at £40, but then they reduced it and I ultimately got it for £20. So it was an absolute steal. It has a little bit of a wobbly bottom, which is never a good look, darlings. So my cunning plan to stabilise it and weight it down is to add gravel into a bin liner and let that spread disperse around the bottom. I'm also going to cut off some lengths of chicken wire and stuff those inside. This is going to help hold the arrangement that I'm going to do in it in place. It's going to make it much easier to get the shape and form that I want. It's actually really quite heavy. Now to it, I'm going to add this faux angelica. I got this, I think it was about this time last year, probably a year last August, and I've used it in several places around the house. The stems were from HomeSense and they were an absolute steal. They were ridiculously priced. I think they were £2.99 each. So top bargain. And of course the cane addiction continues. These walking sticks are going to go in and just create a little bit of whimsy. To cover up all that chicken wire, which again is not a good look, I'm just going to use a little bit of Hessian. And let's not forget the lid. I'm going to use a little bit of wire to attach it to the side as a jaunty little hat. Time to decorate the bookcase. Now if you'd like to see how I painted all of this and quite what those little holes are for, please do check out that video. I will link it down below. It's got all of the spring summer decorating in there and lots of useful tips and tricks as well. As do all of my videos. I really try to pack in as much information as I possibly can to help you create beautiful homes that represent your personality, that showcase you without spending a lot of money. This channel is all about affordable decorating, decorating on a budget, creating a high-end finish and not spending a huge amount of money and having great fun in the process. All the items on the bookcase are either thrifted or foraged. And I'm keeping it very simple, just using some dark browns and a few pops of colour. So this is how we started. Let's see how we finished.